Please share to us what is technically public speaking?
Technically, public speaking it's the art and science of face-to-face speaking in front of a live audience. And you heard me right. It is both an art and a science because most people only look at it as an art, something that, it's sort of like a skill, something that you are born with. But it's not just an art. It's actually for everybody. I say that it's a science because it's something that you can learn. It's a skill that you may not be good at first, but if you keep doing it and you learn some of the strategy structure that we're going to talk about later, you could be good at it. Now, I also mentioned that it's face-to-face speaking in front of a live audience. So
Right.
does that mean that people can no longer become public speakers because, well, we're in a pandemic right now and not all of us can travel. Now, the good thing here is in the online world, the internet and certain gadgets and apps have already bridged the gap so that public speaking now has already pivoted from face to face to what we have here right now, what we're doing right now. We're speaking in public in front of a live audience. So basically, that is public speaking.
So you mentioned that it's a skill.
Mm-hmm.
May I know, how did you discover yourself that, oh, this is something that I am, blessed with?
That's a really great question. Um, I've always had this thing where I want to teach. My students and everybody I speak with when they ask me, or vice versa, when I ask them, what is it that you really want to do? You have to ask yourself that because that's how you find your niche and your branding, right? When I was in the corporate, I was doing all of these paperwork and stuff. But of course, I also do reports and we also have meetings where we present, right? And I find that it is much easier for me to get my message across when I present it in a fashionable manner. So let's say I have to convince my boss that my presentation or my strategy is good as opposed to another freelancer or another employee's strategy. It's a matter of persuasion. It's a matter of conviction, me convincing my boss. And how do I stand out, or how do I par better than the other person? That would be if I organize my thoughts and present it in such a way that all he has to do is say yes. And whenever I do that, whenever I tell stories and convince my boss, I feel really good, And well, other than that, when I was still in the corporate, there was one thing that I wanted to do, which I was doing together with working with my 9 to 5. I was teaching during Saturday because that's the only free time that I have, and there are no classes in the school that I was teaching. And so that's how I answered my own question. What is it, that one thing that you really want to do? If money is not an option, what is that one thing that you would do for free? And that is what I want to do. I want to teach. Now, for me, again, to get my message across to students, because me teaching, if I feel that they didn't learn anything, then it's all for nothing, right? And that would be absurd, me teaching, and there's this big gap. So I have to find a way for me that when I speak, they understand, so that my time would not be wasted, so that I make so much good use of my time. And that's how I found out that I love to speak and not just blabber, not just speak. I have to say it in such a way that the first time I say it, you have to understand it. And that's how public speaking for me as a passion was born.
I see. So it was really not because it was what do you call this? Not only because it's work for you, but it
Yeah.
somehow really started as a passion.
Hmm.
Okay, so there are a lot of people who are not confident in speaking. They're probably more confident in being behind the camera. And I saw myself at that time for years back, actually until now, I still I still cringe at the
You
thought.
look good. You look good, coach.
You. So, it's not like, I'm also like born with it. I really believe in what you said, that it's something that you can actually develop over time.
Mhm.
So, when you started, coach, what difficulties have you experienced in public speaking, especially online?
That's actually how I would answer that question would be in two parts. Difficulties that I faced when I was just starting out public speaking face to face would be, well, there are a lot. There's the of course confidence. All of us have that, the confidence issue, and you have the imposter syndrome.
Right, right.
What am I doing here? There are other qualified people to teach and to talk about what I'm going to talk about. Why am I here? And actually, I can sum up my fear in public speaking into two questions. Number one is, what if these people who are listening to me, what if they don't listen? That's the first one. And second is, what if they do listen and they don't like what I'm talking about or what I'm saying? What if they don't like what I'm talking about? So these are the two questions that always plague me when I talk or when I speak in public. And other than that, of course, there are these other issues where there are too many people. There are just two people. I've had all of these experiences where I'm supposed to be talking. I'm supposed to be having a talk, and it's for 20 people. And I prepare all of these engaging questions, and only two people show up. And I've also had one experience where the organizer said it's only a small crowd, about 15 people, and about 100 people show up. And I prepared for about 15 to 20 people. So this talk that I prepared was engaging only for a personal few. And before I know it, there are a lot. So when it comes to speaking in public face to face, you have to prepare yourself for all kinds of scenario. And second is, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because I
Hmm.
experienced all of these and then I learned. So that's with the first scenario, public speaking face to face. Now, as for your second question, public speaking online. Now here's a different thing. And as we know, public speakers are pivoting, right? Most of the public speakers, actually, I guess all of the public speakers that I know and I look up to, the ones that are talking in public are now online. They're now on Facebook. They're now on Instagram. Now, some of the challenges that I faced when I was transitioning from speaking in public face to face to online would be, number one, the stage. Online, there's like a lot of people and you see all of them. So it's really easier for me to engage, because when I make a joke, I know that you laugh because I saw you, right?
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
online, right? Online, if you make a joke, how will you know if they received it well? How will you know if they laughed? And you
True.
can't always rely, right? And you can always rely on the laugh devices and the tech that you have. So sometimes you have to wing it. And particularly the constraints that I had to deal with, which I now am managing, would be, that's the first one, framing. Your frame is a bit smaller, and of course, the people, did you know that the people's attention in public are way bigger? They're way broader in terms of attention than when they look at and listen to people online, because the speaker is directly looking at the audience. So there is this connection. There could be eye contact, and you can see the person speaking
Right.
live, right? But when it
Yes.
comes to speaking online, it would be okay for you to not tune in, pause, or maybe cook, right? Cook while you're watching. So the attention is divided. Now, how do you grasp, or how do you get the audience's attention when you're the only one speaking? That's the first one. Second is there are these tech issues, and we all know that.
Yes.
You could be doing a live session, or you could be doing a talk, and before you know it, there's a scheduled or unscheduled tech problem where your power, your electricity just won't cooperate, or it could be the internet or your mic, or I think I have experienced all of those
Me too.
internet problems, right? Because when you do it all the time, when you do it regularly, you're bound to experience all of them. Mic problems, but that's a good thing too. Yeah, but coach, that's a good thing too that you experience it, because a lot of the upgrades that I did came from the fact that I experienced those.
Oh.
Right? Let me give you one example. This is one mic that I had. This is actually the second mic that I bought. The first mic that I had were just the headset, the mic of the headset. That was my first mic. And before that, I wasn't using anything. And then I upgraded. I bought this BM 800 mic. And then this BM 800 mic just started to not cooperate with me. And then there's the issue of, I joined a contest. I actually won a contest in Toastmasters. I won 2 contests. But before I did that, I realized that I had to move away from my camera so that half of my body is seen. Yeah. Now, how will that happen when this BM800 mic has to be near my mouth? So, right. So I had to buy a mic. I had to buy a new mic that would be able to pick up my sound or my voice even when I'm 3 feet away. And of course, these are investments, but I wouldn't have been able to buy all of these tech and all of these stuff if I hadn't experienced those. So I guess these are some of the difficulties that I've experienced while I'm doing talks, or may it be doing talks, may it be getting interviewed by a prospective client, may it be doing a one-on-one. And I guess the last one would be the location, because when you speak in public face-to-face, that wouldn't be a problem. There's the stage, and there's the people, and everything's set up. And if ever your mic does not function, then you can always shout at the top of your lungs, right? Or you could go to your audience. I've experienced this. I was giving a talk, and the mic just suddenly lost power. So what I did was I had to walk from the stage, away from the stage, and in the middle of the audience so that they could hear me. But that is right. That's easily that could easily. Yes. You have to be ready for anything. But that one we were able to solve. Now, what if the location is the problem? If it's online, concrete example: my neighbor likes to do karaoke and likes to party all day, all night. And of course, we coaches, we have to record videos, and I have to, right now they're playing it really, really loud, but I guess you can't hear it because I have an app on my laptop. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Crisp.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. And if you're really going to make a career out of public speaking, or if you just want to, let's say you have weekly meetings with your client, it wouldn't hurt if you could invest in tech like that, noise canceling tech like that. It has actually made my life easier. Yeah.
Yes. We also have an audience tonight, Coach, I'm sure, of English teachers.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah. So, if ever they are doing classes in the comforts of their home, it is really a problem about the noise, right? That's totally out of our control already. So good that you brought up Chris. So
Mhm.
you mentioned also about learning from mistake and not to be afraid in committing mistakes.
Yeah.
So what can you share us a story wherein, also I was able to mention earlier about presence of mind, wherein, you moved forward because your mic wasn't functioning already. But what if, it's online? Can you share to us an experience that it happened online, there was a glitch, but you were able to overcome it? How did you?
There are actually a lot. I'd like to acknowledge our viewers who are also teaching. Good
Oh, right.
evening. Yeah.
Yes.
Funny story. I am also teaching English to different races, or I used to. I was part of this group where we teach different languages. And of course, other than Filipino, English is the only language I am confident enough to teach. And it's good because there are other teachers there who teach different languages, and some are free, some are paid. Uh, Example would be one teacher teaches French, another would be Greek. Um, what else? You have
German.
Chinese, Japanese, German. Yeah, we have German, Korean as well. So there are different languages, and I was teaching English one time in this class of around 60 students online in Zoom, and they were of a different race. They were mixed a lot.
So it was a
Some
big
were, yeah, it
it
was
was a
a
big
really big
class.
class, and I don't think there was a Filipino in that class. All of them were of different races, and for some reason, my internet at that time was not upgraded yet. I had to upgrade because of that instance that I'm going to share with you right now. While I was teaching, I got cut off. I got dropped from Zoom.
Mhm.
And it took me about 30 seconds to log in again. And it was okay. And then we continued with our lesson. So it was about phrasal verbs and basic English. And then I got cut off again. Now, I don't know if you would agree with me, but Filipinos as an audience, they're we're really polite because of course I teach Filipinos and I teach different races too. And whenever I get cut off, or before, whenever I got cut off, they were okay with it. They were okay, coach, let's continue. But
Ah,
yeah, but with other people there, they were, what happened to teacher? What happened to teacher? And I was already panicking because that was my class. The good thing there was that there was someone who was also good in English. I'm not so sure if he was an American or an English, but he took over, and I had he what he did was he took a screenshot of my screen, and then he started explaining, God bless him, he started explaining where I left off. And then when I went back in, I had a backup internet, and then I continued teaching. And of course I thanked him so much for taking over. But then one that was one lesson that I learned. Always have a backup, and your backup always has a backup with everything. That would be internet and my mic and my laptop. my laptop, the backup for my laptop is I have a tablet and I have a phone, but that's it. I have to have one more laptop, but that would be one lesson that I'd never forget. Of course, there are others with tech glitches, and then you make it better and better and better. So I love these mistakes.
Well, that's actually what do you call this? I don't want mistakes in the middle of, like having a class online, like what you experience. But then again, yes, it's how we can make ourselves better. So I hope
Yeah.
that people that are, listening will be able to hear, learn about having backup. So, Coach, let's talk about for the freelancers.
Mhm.
Why does public speaking matter for public speaking skills?
That is actually a good question. If you're a freelancer, you would definitely ask. If you're a freelancer and you're watching this video, you may ask yourself, what's in it for me? Yeah, that's public speaking and that's for experts, but then I'm a freelancer or I'm a social media manager or I'm a graphic artist. Why does that apply
Right,
to me? Right? First is that, let me tell you, the most powerful people in the whole world, the ones who have the reins and everything, they're storytellers and they're speakers. Now, if you are good at explaining yourself, you're good at making people believe in your stories, persuading people in certain presentations, then you have an edge above other people. Now, as a freelancer, not just a freelancer, as for every kind of work, every kind of end of work. If you're a speaker, you already have an edge because you definitely know how to get your message across. But specifically for freelancers, if you really want to stand out with your niche, because freelancers out there are actually a lot. There are a lot of freelancers and there are a lot of people who want to be freelancers.
True.
But with regards to, right, that is true. There are a lot. But with regards to clients, a lot of clients and a lot of companies are still into the traditional way of employing people where you have a boss and you have an employer. Not a lot are convinced that hiring a freelancer would be better than your regular employment. Now, how do you get your message across that I can do this and you can really save when you hire me? Then you become a speaker. You get your message across and you state your case. Because with every endeavor, with freelancing, when you step into that room, that Zoom room, or that when you step into Google Meet, you start selling yourself. But that's the truth of the matter. It's not your service, right? It's branding. It's not your service that you're selling. It's actually yourself. How can I make your life better as opposed to that other person that you just interviewed? I can get that work done much better than the others that you interview. And how can you do that? You tell a good story about yourself. You make the client understand by letting them get to know you more. That is the benefit of being a speaker, and a good speaker at that, when you're a freelancer.
Yes, especially I totally agree with what you shared, most especially for people that are in sales,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right?
Sales and marketing, and not actually, yes, sales and marketing, that's already a check, that's already a given. But public speaking is actually not about speaking. It's also about how you carry yourself. It's also about how you sit or how you stand or how you simply talk, how you converse with people. And it's maybe it's for sales and for marketing, but it's also, let's say you're applying for a social media post or you're applying for a general virtual assistant post. There's a big difference with how you sit. There's a big difference in terms of getting that application or getting that job that you had applied for. If you sit or you slouch when you're sitting, or when you're speaking a bit soft, and the client cannot audibly hear you or cannot understand you a bit well, yeah, that's already a factor lower when it comes to getting hired. So it is actually applicable to every kind of freelance work.
True. Now, you undeniably, coach, you are good at speaking. You bagged the award, the Toastmasters award. What can you share, especially to people who are not confident with their public speaking skills or their speaking skills?
I can tell you 4 things, 4 tips in order for you to be better at speaking. Number 1 is, and it starts with the P. While yes, it starts with the P, and the next letter is R.
Practice.
And practice. The next letter is E, but it's actually close to practice. P-R-E. And then P.
Prepare.
Yeah, exactly. There. That's the first one. Preparation is key. You know, in Toastmasters International, there are 2 types of speaking. You have prepared speaking and impromptu speaking. In prepared speaking, it's self-explanatory. You have to prepare. You have to write that elaborate speech and practice, and maybe record yourself. If you're online, look at your gestures and take a look if you're looking at the camera, like what I'm doing right now. But there's also such a thing as impromptu speaking, where you get asked a question, any kind of question, like, what did you have for lunch? And you have to answer that question in 2 minutes. So you have to think of a story, because if you say, oh, I had a sandwich for lunch, that's not within the time limit. So you have to speak for a minimum of a minute and a maximum of 2 minutes. So think of an elaborate story about that. Now, about impromptu speaking, most people think that there is no preparation in impromptu speaking, but there is actually. How you prepare for that is, you can already Google, you could already type in possible questions that you could get asked. And there are a lot. Type in impromptu speaking and think of answers that you would say, or that you would give on a particular question. That's already preparing. Another would be, of course, check your framing, check your background, check your location, but that has something to do with preparation still. Second would be consistency. You have to be consistent with speaking. How do you do that? You can start a vlog. You can, if you're not yet confident to publish, to hit that live button or that publish button, you can just start recording yourself. And I know a lot of people cringe when they record and then they watch themselves, but it's a good... Yeah, me too. The first time that I recorded myself and I watched, who is this? Ew. But then you have to do it. You have to do it if you want to get better. So that's the second one, consistency. And believe you and me, preparation and consistency, they're a power duo. When you prepare and when you do it regularly, could be every day, could be every other day. And if you watch yourself the first time that you record yourself, and then you watch yourself the 20th time that you record yourself, there is going to be a big difference from the first time to the 20th time, because you get better at it and you get more comfortable with yourself. And this is the third one, is something that a lot of us have to do. We have to do it afraid. We have to do it afraid. I
Mm,
know, right?
great.
Do
Okay.
it afraid because fear never goes away. A lot of people think that experts at whatever craft become unafraid when they're already experts. But then you have to ask yourself, how did they become experts, right? They had to start from level zero. They had to start from that point where they were afraid of it because fear, it's in all of us. And let me tell you the story. I was employed in an online publishing company when I wrote my book. I had the heavy case of imposter syndrome. And then I before I published my book, what I did was I reached out to fellow authors, but I wasn't an author. I wasn't an author at that time, so I reached out to best-selling authors in our company, in the publishing company, and I asked them, did you ever have this feeling in your gut, in your stomach, butterflies in your stomach, that maybe this won't work, that maybe this isn't for me? And you know what all of them said? That there's five of them. All of them said, yes, we did. And one of the best-selling authors that we had said, every time, with every book, and he had like 50 books already. 50, not all of them were bestsellers, but a lot of them were. And with every book that he published, he'd go, maybe this is my downfall. Maybe this book would be my downfall. But then he just kept submitting the manuscript. He just kept doing it. And so I said, if he was able to do it, submit that manuscript and publish that book, then maybe I can too. If I can only jump from that threshold, then it would go and go and go. So I just have to jump from that first threshold and do it afraid. And I just console myself with the fact that it gets better. It gets better. I just have to get through that part, that it gets better.
Mhm.
And the fourth one would be, this may not be applicable to all, but it is surely applicable to me. I pray before I do it, and it
Mm,
works.
I agree.
So,
I agree big
right?
time.
Yeah, every time. So
True.
these are the things that I guess I could share to
Hmm.
prospective speakers.
Yes. Well, of course, the number one ingredient is really prayer, and there's no denying, because of course we need to have the strength of the grace of God in whatever we do. But I like also the third tip that you shared, Coach, which is about be afraid, because I think that's common to each and every one of us.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. And also, Coach, before I go to my last question, for those that are watching this live, feel free to comment on the chat box. I forgot about this. I should have said this earlier. Feel free to comment in the chat box where you are. Would love to know from what part of the Philippines you are. If you're probably outside of the Philippines, that would be great. So it may probably a good morning or good afternoon in your area. So thank you for watching. And Coach, lastly, um, there were people already who were doing public speaking as their livelihood even before the pandemic hit them. And now we have pivoted online. How can they still continue to earn a living by speaking online?
How can you make a living by speaking online?
Mhm.
Three words: share your message. Because with public speaking as a source of income, you can't fake it. It has to come from your heart. So, just to take me for example, I already get paid speaking, but I didn't used to. When I started out, of course, I was teaching and I was getting paid, but I was doing it because I loved it. And your you getting paid would be the secondary thing that would be monetary benefit would be secondary. In order for you to make a living and establish yourself as a speaker, is of course you have to share your message. You have to find that message first. I know people who speak in public with different kinds of topics. Could be extreme topics from baking, cooking, motherhood, sports, anything under the sun. And tell you honestly, these kinds of things, it does not work. If you're speaking just for the sake of speaking, it will not work. The first thing that you need to do is find your message and spread it and tell it to people. You could tell your story for free, and you have to be passionate about it, because being a public speaker is, again, telling your message and caring enough, because your message, you know that your message is going to bless other people. That would be the reason why you are speaking, in order to bless people. And of course there are other goals and there are purposes of public speaking. You could be speaking to entertain. There are, stand-up comedians. There are humorous speakers to also to inform. If you have a message that you really want people to know, like in TED Talks, they have this burning message that they really want to get across. That's the goal there is to inform. And there are also other goals, like to persuade. Sales pitches are mini speeches that the goal of which is to persuade people into maybe buying or taking a look. Maybe, be that as it may, your pitch or your speech or your talk has to be something that is real in you. That's how you get paid. You start with finding your message, something that you really want to talk about, and then go from there. Because when you find that one topic that you want to talk about, it's pretty much like writing. It's pretty much like starting your own blog. You can't write a blog simply because other people are doing it, because you're going to run out of topics sooner or later if you're not interested, right? But if you're interested in this one topic that you're writing about, you can always find a subtopic, like, let's say, motherhood. Because I'm a mother, I know a lot about the topic. I can, but only up until pre-adolescent. I don't think I can write anything about parenting 20s or 30s, because my kid is an adolescent, and I'm passionate about that. I could find topics to speak about motherhood. I can find topics to write about motherhood, because I myself am a mother, and I used to do it for free, but then I improved and improved and improved, and now I get paid to talk about certain things that I like. And that's how you get paid. Establish yourself first, but before you do that, before you establish yourself, find that one thing that you want to talk about.
That's a very good tip that you shared. I hope that our viewers were able to catch that. Start with a message, because there are so many people out there right now, Coach, having their own blogs. With the pandemic, I think it has pushed us to go out of our shell. And I hands down to those people that, I'm sure it was difficult for them, but they were able to really overcome it. But I'm sure there's a lot of ways to improve, and also for like me, for example, so many things for me to improve as well.